News Radio 1000 KTOK. I'm Gwin Faulconer-Lippert. Perhaps you have seen that the Oklahoma Department of Transportation says on all OU games and everything that they are concerned for our safety. And with that in mind, so am I. Tonight, Tom Elmore joins me. He is a transportation consultant and the longtime founder and executive director of the North American Transportation Institute. He joins me this evening because of something that I think might alarm you, and perhaps you've even seen it being talked about in the media, a transportation corridor from Houston to Oklahoma City. And what's going to travel on that corridor, Tom Elmore?
Autonomous, driverless heavy trucks, 40-ton semi-trailer trucks without drivers.
Without drivers.
Right.
And why is Oklahoma City part of this?
Well, because our illustrious state legislature, led by Southside Oklahoma City Senator Paul Rosino, passed in 2022 Senate Bill 1541, approving the operation of autonomous vehicles on our public roads. I asked Senator Rosino, why didn't you ask your constituents what they thought about this? Made him really angry. I said, well, let me tell you why you didn't ask them, because they would have told you to go jump right in the lake, and you know it.
And there are some states that are not allowing this.
Well, that's true.
Well,
and, Rosino told his fellow legislators that they all drink their own bathwater, and they don't really listen to the public, and they don't want to know what the public thinks. If they did, they would have spoken out to the public about this. This thing sailed through the state legislature like it was nothing, and it was signed by our illustrious governor, Kevin Stitt, like it was nothing, like it was no big deal, like they owned these roads instead of the taxpayers. That's very troubling to me. The thing is, it's now been announced that as of the partnership began in November 2022, and we're told that Maersk, an international shipping company, and a robotics company called Kodiak had been operating autonomous trucks with quote-unquote safety drivers behind the wheel since August. However, as of the 1st of October, apparently, they are operating driverless heavy trucks. And it has to be on I-35. They're calling it an autonomous vehicle lane.
Well,
They've
that's
established
what I thought. There are two lanes on I-35.
That's
Which
correct.
one of them is the autonomous one?
Well, the drivers, you can be certain, don't know. I'm sure those truck windows are black, and you can't see through them, and you don't know what's going on with these vehicles. I just think about the number of times with my fabulous Microsoft computers and whatever that I have to reboot because everything melts down. And I know that can't happen, except that it does happen quite commonly. And we're being told that we should place the safety, our own safety and that of our families, in the hands of companies which aren't connected to us in any way. They're just out there seeking their own profits using the public roads.
So why would our legislators support this?
Well, I think that speaks for itself, Gwen. They don't represent us. In the era of the 12-year term limit, as I warned when the 12-year term limit was being voted for, you go ahead and vote this thing in, you won't have any representation at all. These guys work for whoever bought them the seat for 12 years, and then they get the carrot on the end of the stick. Today, former State Representative Jim Newport, for instance, is head of the Oklahoma Trucking Association. And it's hilarious. The entire state government has been corporatized, and the 12-year term limit was the open door to that. And I don't see how we go back from this without repealing the 12-year term limit, which would be an ordeal, to be sure.
Oh, that'd be huge.
We shut, those who passed this thing shot our feet off
Well,
the only representation we have.
now if you read
And
about these, because I know that you have a very strong feeling about it, I do too, but I was trying to do some due diligence here. They
yeah.
claim that driverless trucks are safer than drivers, that human
Oh, sure they
error
are.
is
Yeah.
far
Oh,
more
absolutely. No.
common than computer error.
That's what they claimed about multi-trailer super heavy trucks back in 1991 when my little citizen coalition, Safe Highways for Oklahoma, stepped in, and quite a surprise to them and us, turned it back because we wouldn't go away and we wouldn't shut up, and we knew what we were talking about. That's what it takes. But I find today that the citizenry of the state of Oklahoma just isn't interested. They're too distracted. They don't even, Gwen, most of us in Oklahoma don't even know who our elected officials are.
That's true. I don't know about
Let
most,
alone,
but many, yes.
let alone how to reach them and what they're doing and what they're up to, I mean, there's a few magic words that our elected officials say to get elected. I'm pro this and pro that, and we'll elect them and we'll close our eyes and let them carry off the store. And that's exactly what they're doing. To what extent?
Let me ask you some questions about driverless trucks.
Please.
Should a driverless truck do something or have a tail light out? Well, let's do something, that it could just happen. How would a highway patrolman get a driverless truck to pull over even?
I don't know, but I'll tell you this. Unfortunately, the State Department of Public Safety is part of this. They signed off on it. Paul Rosino told me after this bill was passed that, well, don't worry about it because it's going to the Department of Public Safety so that standards can be established and adopted. They didn't adopt any. I mean, all they did was sign off on a pre-programmed book of some kind that the trucking lobby handed them. And they, in effect, have punted on this thing and are allowing this to happen.
And it is happening right now. I mean, you can read about it. Yes.
It is positively happening right now. And here's the thing. They pretend that the only way to move heavy loads is highways and trucks.
Mm-hmm.
There's a thing called a railroad, which doesn't cost taxes. It pays taxes. They don't want to use that, though, because they can't control it. It's private industry, and they want to be in control. And, I mean, the things that they're saddling us with on our public roads, they're about to start charging us by the mile via transponders in our cars for the use of our public roads. Did they ask you if they could do this?
Well, there's a pilot study going on. They asked for people to
right
sign
now.
up to do to volunteer to do it because they claim that with all the electric cars, the gas tax is going to be lost.
There aren't that many electric cars. And by the way, who would do that? What Oklahoman would say, sure, I'll take $50 worth of coupons to carry a transponder around in my car. So you can also charge me by the mile. What Oklahoman would, let me tell you what Oklahoman would do it, Gwen. The families of the highway contractors and the trucking bosses who are going to get their pockets full because of this. This is the degree to which the Department of Transportation is in bed up to its eyebrows with the Association of General Contractors and the trucking lobby. We actually have 3 trucking CEOs serving on Governor Stitt's Transportation Commission. Whose interest do you think they're looking out for? Mm-hmm. They don't care whether there's a driver driving one of these trucks or not. And the thing is, they're paying pennies on the dollar against the damage they do to our roads, whether there's a driver in the truck or not. When a standard semi-truck, 5 axles at 80,000 pounds, its maximum legal weight, is inflicting pavement damage statistically equivalent to 9,600 automobiles. This number didn't come from me. It came from the American Association of State Highway and Transportation Officials at the dawn of the interstate era. They all knew.
I had a Tom Elmore moment, I felt like, the other day, because I saw a giant truck. Giant. It's the biggest truck I've ever seen. I mean, I haven't even seen one that big on the highway. And it was turning, and I thought I was dead because I was legally sitting where I was supposed to at a light, and this giant truck came. And I thought, that giant truck is probably loaded to the hilt here. And it is driving on the same little street, not a highway, not anything, that I'm driving on. No wonder our streets are so awful.
There is no question about it.
Because they're not paying any tax on that at all, are they?
Well, and no. And by the way, consider this. ODOT, the whole bunch of them, understand very well that the state of Oklahoma, state government in this state, has never once audited highway user cost recovery by vehicle type. In other words, we have never established what each class of vehicle repays the taxpayers for the use of their roads, especially the commercial users. And this fair miles deal where they want to charge auto and pickup operators by the mile, guess who's not involved in that? The heavy trucking industry.
Oh, they don't have to do that?
No.
Oh, because they're going to continue buying gasoline. And so they'll pay
we can't, we can't charge them what we ought to be paying. Why, they're the only way we have to get, we'd all be starving in the dark without them. Once again, the railroad industry, which unfortunately is a shadow of what it once was, because of this kind of mismanagement of everything by government, it doesn't cost taxes, it pays taxes.
Tom Elmore is my guest. Hold on, Tom. I've got to take a break. We're talking about a new program, which is a driverless semi-truck, possibly even more than one hooked together, coming from Houston to Oklahoma City because our state legislature approved it. And also, did you know they may measure your miles and that's how they're going to charge you taxes? We'll talk more about this when we come back. Tom Elmore is my guest. He is a transportation consultant. My guest is Tom Elmore. He is a longtime director of the North American Transportation Institute. Now he is a transportation consultant, and he brings interesting things to our attention, such as the driverless trucking industry that is now traveling through Oklahoma. A second thing he has brought to our attention tonight is something called the mileage-based user fee, and it's a pilot program where they ask people to test devices that plug into your vehicles to record the miles driven. Why are we doing it? Well, because replacing fuel taxes with fees based on miles driven. So, Tom Elmore, why do you think people won't want to do this?
Why people won't want to do it?
Yes.
Because the public already significantly overpays its cost responsibility for the use of its own roads. Once again, the state of Oklahoma has never in history performed what's known as a highway cost allocation study. It's an audit, an official audit of highway user cost recovery by vehicle type. If you own 10 miles of highway or a toll bridge, you would have to know what you needed to charge each class of user and at what weight, and you would have to be certain to do that to get you to come out on the thing. How can the state of Oklahoma come out? Well, we don't come out. By 2001, Gwin, we faced $60 billion in unfunded highway maintenance requirement, up from $11 billion in 1996. 1996 to 2000, or 2001, that's 45% of your growth in unfunded highway maintenance liability on the state of Oklahoma. Nothing significantly has changed since then. At 45% of your growth, and that, by the way, directly paralleling heavy truck mileage. In 1996, 5.6 billion annual vehicle miles traveled by heavy trucks on Oklahoma's major routes. By 2001, 13.4 billion. That's 45% of your growth. I believe that has continued till now, which would mean over 500 billion in unfunded highway maintenance requirement on the state's public roads. Clearly, the legislators are in a panic And they recently held an interim study where the contractors came in and told them that, well, we're no longer keeping them up in the style of which they become accustomed, so we need to find a way to wring more money out of the taxpayers. And that's precisely what they intend to do
And
with fair miles.
and
Have
fair
they asked
miles
us?
and more
Yeah.
turnpikes. Let's get some more
Well,
turnpike.
you know,
action
yeah,
going.
that's another thing. When you've got legislators who are so naive and easily led, apparently, we'll give them that much credit. I mean, you're only there for 12 years. You hardly have time to figure out where the bathrooms are, and so you're just kind of led around by the nose by the big money. You don't really have time in that period to establish a supporting base of real representation. So you typically take the easy way out and just attach yourself to a big commercial interest, or maybe one of those commercial interests bought you the seat in the first place. And you carry water for them for 12 years, and at the end of the 12 years, why, you get the carrot at the end of the stick. Well, that's not representation. And Gwyn, the frightening thing about autonomous vehicles on Oklahoma's public roads is, yes, that the machines on the roads are bad enough. But there's a message here. The message is that our state legislature no longer represents us, has no interest in doing so, and doesn't give a rip about our safety on our roads. I mean, this is astounding. The state legislature is now fully corporatized. They work for the big corporations. They don't give a hang about us. They're only going to be there for 12 years. Why do they have to kowtow to us?
So what do we do about this, Tom? We have about 2 minutes left. What do you suggest we do?
Well, I would say that we need to speak out, especially to our state House Transportation committees. Ronnie Johns of Ada is the chairman of the House Transportation Committee, and John Haste is the chairman of the Senate Transportation Committee. These men need to hear from the public in their positions as chairman of these committees. They don't just serve their constituents, they serve the entire state. And they need to hear in no uncertain terms from the people of Oklahoma that this is not acceptable. These are not your roads, men. These are our roads. You didn't even ask us, and you've imposed driverless 40-ton trucks on I-35 out here running next to mom, dad, and the kids in the minivan? No, sir. No, sir. It's you know, as far as what's being paid, it's really very simple. We need a credible highway cost allocation study. We've never had one in the history of the state. Why don't y'all want to run a cost allocation study?
Why?
Do you not want the people to know how badly you've been nailing them into the ground on this thing all these years?
Is there a chance that Gettner Drummond would insist on something like that?
Well, I suggested this to the Attorney General's office. I really didn't get much in the way of a rise from them about it, but it wouldn't hurt. Certainly wouldn't hurt. It wouldn't hurt for the auditor and inspector to hear about this. This is when you're trying to start charging people by the mile for the use of their roads, and you've never even done a basic audit of highway user cost recovery. This is malfeasance in office. It cannot be anything else. This is breaking the trust of the people at large for the benefit of somebody. Who thought this up anyway? Let me tell you who thought it up. The Association of Road and Transportation Builders, the big highway contractors in league with such outfits as the Oklahoma Association of General Contractors in Washington, D.C., and the American Trucking Associations. That's who. They told the legislators to do this, so the legislators did it.
What is the best way to get in touch with you, Tom Elmore?
Anybody can reach me at 405-831-3860.
I thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Let's talk again soon.
Yes, ma'am.
Tom Elmore is a transportation consultant and the founder and former director of the North American Transportation Institute. I'm Gwin Faulconer-Lippert. You're listening to 1000 KTOK.